wait till we get some people in here first. I'm gonna go ahead and do
Is this the
shares
part
on.
where you just stare at the camera and wait for people to get there?
Yep. Pretty much.
This is when we have our intro music and stuff going on, you know.
It'll tell me when people start popping in here, and then I can see all the comments over here on my deal. I can see YouTube comments and Facebook comments.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. So, okay, it's showing up now. So
Background's perfect, man. It's awesome.
It looks like a movie theater.
That's awesome.
It looks like a movie theater, like I'm on my way to the pisser and I'm walking by all the upcoming movies.
Shout out Mandy.
Yeah, this is all Mandy's right here.
Yeah.
She's a big Tim Burton fan.
Heck yeah.
We're cranking up there.
Yeah, we're at 14 already. So
Woo!
That's good. That's good.
They're just passing through.
They're just passing through. Yep. Oh, Billy Decker.
12, 86.
How's it
Billy
going,
Drive.
Billy? The YouTube channel is Hall Racing Media. So yeah, Hall Racing Media, and it should be on that as the live also. If you want to watch on YouTube.
Billy Decker, best water truck driver in the Midwest. Ask Tyler.
Yeah.
Ask Tyler Herb. He'll tell you. Right.
Well, guys, welcome to another episode of the Peoria Speedway live show. Usually it's just with me, but this week we brought on the Hot Lap Heroes. We've got Brian, we've got Cole, and we've got Kurt with us. And then we've got Craig over here also. We're going to be doing the tribute show to Keith Siegel tonight, who we lost last week. Craig over here was the crew chief for Keith. As you guys know, Keith was part of the Hot Lap Heroes, did the A's versus B's with Brian.
Or kicking it with Keith.
Or kicking it with Keith. Yeah.
We like that one better.
Yeah. So,
well, that's where his nickname. I mean, we got his nickname from Hot Lap Heroes.
That's right.
Cool Hand Keith.
Cool Hand Keith.
How did the Cool Hand get finalized? I remember we were just BSing about that, but like, how did that all get finalized?
Well, because we had talked about it, because he was, he'd get really angry. Keith would get real angry. What we would like to call Keith mad.
Keith mad.
Keith mad. Keith would get real and he'd always cool down with a cold bush light. I think something along those lines where Kurt was like, "Oh, cool hands, Keith."
Yeah, cool hands, Keith. That's right. I remember that now.
And so Keith took it upon himself to print out the vinyl that says "Cool Hands, Keith" and put it on his trailer. And then Jenna said, "No, it's Cool Hand, Keith. You have to take that off there." And he's like, "What? I printed it out." She's like, "No, you have to take it off there. That's not right." So then it became Keith. Like Cool Hand Luke, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool Hand Luke. That's what, yeah, exactly. Because it was
kind of, Kurt. You was the one that was Cool Hand Luke.
It was a mock on Keith's attitude at the time, I think.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So
my favorite video I come across the other day was the one where he's throwing the pressure washer wand at the race car.
I remember that. I was there working on the body.
That was in preparation for the 2-day show at Spoon River. So we had to take a motor out because Keith hurt the camshaft, I believe, and so we put in Lucas Bolton's crate motor, and he was done with that pressure washer at the time. And I said, I thought he did it just for the camera. He's like, "No, I was done with that."
That was natural.
He was done with it.
It was over.
Politely said, "I'm done with that."
In the most
Was there a
PG
couple
way.
extra words? Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to go back. You got to go back and slow that down, like put it in slow motion, the whole slam, and just
Somehow voiceover Hulk smash in it.
let's get into how we all met Keith. I mean, so I knew Keith, heck, we all grew up at the racetrack as kids, but I didn't get to know him until I was an official in 2003 for Sherry, and he was working on Jim Carmody's cars with Chris. Then he became that God faithful Hornet driver. And Kurt, you got more stories on that Hornet deal than I do.
Yeah. You want me to talk about that now? Or?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Heck yeah.
Jeff, you probably remember the year.
No time better than never.
Jeff, you probably remember the year, but it was either 11 or 12. I don't believe it was 13 because that was the year it was cut half short because of that flood. But 11 or 12. But Keith never really caused any problems. Usually, I mean, he didn't. I mean, he had some scuffles, but never to the point where it got drawn to anybody's attention long term. And I don't know what got into him. I don't even really remember who the other guy was, but they got into it on the track. And I think the one guy ended up wrecked in turn 3 at the end of the race. Of course, they were the last class that night. I think Keith and him had something going on during that wreck. Don't remember anything about it, but all I remember was, and I'm pretty sure Keith was in that he was in a blue Hornet for a little bit, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But anyway, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him either cut straight across the infield from turn 1 to turn 3 as hard as it'd go, or he was in the infield at one point in time, and he launched that baby up into the side of that car as the guy was climbing out of it. And Joe Miller, who's no longer with us, he's seen it all, and he was hot. He's like, "You gotta do something about this maniac. He's gonna kill somebody." And sure enough, I don't remember when it happened, but said, "Keith, you're done. You're never coming back here as long as I'm around." And he did. And you know what? He didn't pitch the fit about it at all. He knew what he'd done. And
yeah, he did.
He got banned, and then when I got rid of the place, that got lifted and whatnot. But that was really the only time. I mean, I knew of Keith, and I knew of he had a temper, but I don't remember him like causing weekly trouble. There were guys out there that would cause weekly trouble. Keith really wasn't that guy, but boy, when he'd get mad, he'd get mad.
No,
he got mad that night, and he tried to kill that guy. And the funny part was we still talk about it, up until a couple weeks ago, and he never forgot that either. I got banned from Peoria Speedway.
Oh yeah.
So
well, and that guy never raced a Hornet after that.
I don't remember who that. I don't remember
who was the guy.
Do you, Jeff?
I do not remember who it was at all.
He said that guy got out of racing after that whole night. He never raced again.
I probably wouldn't either.
This is who I got.
So I always
One
kind of
cut out
had
a pair.
Siegel on my radar for bad boys, and never really had much to do with him after that until we got, Brian got the Hot Lap Hero thing going, and Keith, and I didn't really see him too much, I got out of the racing scene in 2013 and just kind of stayed away from it until about 16, 17, 18. Started paying attention again. So I wasn't really paying attention who was doing what. But then when Keith got around the group, when we kind of started that deal with Hot Lap Heroes, and there was two Keiths, there was a Keith then and a Keith now, and I enjoyed Keith now. He really cooled down, but he was a good dude. He was a good dude. He was very smart, and you listen to him when he talks because he's got something intelligent to say most of the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cole, let's jump into you. When did you actually meet Keith, or what was your first story with him?
I know I probably ran around Keith a few times when I started racing because I used to race with Jim Carmody because he was helping Jim there for a hot minute and everything, and then we started pitting in the back. Well, then Bob and Lisa would tell us to come over and we'd hang out with them. Then we had that stint where we didn't go to Peoria Speedway for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of was away from Peoria for a long time, didn't really know anything. And he was still running Hornets. By the time I came back, he was in the B mods and stuff. And then he'd come over here. Brian brought the Hot Lap Heroes, and we started just doing shows. And I remember Dad, because Keith was no filter. I'll behave on the Peoria Speedway show, but this 2 strokes we'd be letting her fly, right, Kurt?
That's right.
We're sitting here, and Keith would just start talking about race cars. Dad doesn't know who this guy is. No idea who it is, and it's, hooting and hollering, and they go inside do that. So then me and Dad be out here drinking or whatever, and kind of like, Dad's like, who in the hell is that guy? That's Keith Siegel. He used to run with Carmody, he used to run with everybody and everything else, and he just kind of laugh and giggle, and he'd come out, we start giggling, and then it was like drinking beer, having fun, doing everything and enjoying it. And so we come over, and like we knew what days they were coming over. And then when Dad passed, I want to say Dad passed on a Sunday, and if I remember right, Keith and Keith and Brian the next day or that week, and we moved furniture. Keith told me about his stuff with his dad and the things they did, and this is it. This is where you're going to park. And there was a racing friendship. It became just a crapping around friendship and everything in between. And you don't realize sometimes how good a friendship you got until you lose the person. And kind of the key in the advice you give you. Keith's won some races at Peoria Speedway. We walked through and seen his checks, and Cody Manger might be listening later. And Cody kept saying, he goes, that guy's got too many damn checks. And we'd laugh about it. But
his damn thing was always, Jeff,
that's all he wanted.
Cool fucking big check you're giving out.
That's right.
Said, Keith, all you gotta do is
Take
win
to
on
a
the
big
medal
bank.
That's right. I don't want the trophy. I want the big fucking check. That was my thing. When we the night we won, I'll tell you my story with Keith that I'll never forget it. I mean, we had a bunch of them because we pitted next to each other for the last 3 years, and we were going to go to some play days and we were going to race a little bit. There was going to be a night I was going to put Keith in the car, and not maybe I'm just like maybe afterwards or during or something like that. It was going to be one of those kind of deals. Or we were going to stay late on a Saturday night and get up Sunday sometime and race. And we talked about doing that. And now we sadly don't get to have that opportunity. But there was a night where we set fast time. And Keith and them guys, Craig was there too. And they're like, all right, you set fast time, you're starting pulling the heat race. Keith goes, do not change. Or he goes, don't start in the same spot every time. I'm like, what? He goes, you've never done this before. Don't do like this. All right, cool, worked. Won the heat race. Feature time, we're sitting in the trailer, Matt and I. We could not figure out what tire we wanted to put on it. And with Peoria, know what the weather's going to do or what the track's going to do. And we knew late models go out towards the end. And I kept telling Matt, if I put a fucking 4 on, we're going to have 18 cautions. If I put a 3 on, we're going to run a green flag and we'll burn the tire down. I'll lose it. 5 laps to go. And we kept staggering them. They were within a change. And Keith come walking in the trailer and he's like, all right, which one's fucking new? I said, the 4's new. He goes, I'd bolt that motherfucker up and then go win that sumbitch. And I looked at him. I'm like, all right, Keith has spoken. Let's put the sumbitch on
Did he
the
already have
car.
a beer in his hand at that time?
No, not yet. We hadn't even started. We hadn't really. I don't even think he's gone out yet because we wanted to have the car done because we were at the point where everything worked. We already knew what we wanted to change, but it was like we couldn't figure out what tire we wanted. I mean, I had a new right front. I had a new left rear. We already knew what we were doing when we made the show. We just couldn't figure out what right rear we wanted, and so we come in. We won. There was 18 cautions, and we come in the pits, and I told Keith, we come in the pits, and I said, I fucking told you if we put that 4 in, I can't remember I think he said, no, there was only 17. I counted or something stupid, but we drank, we had a lot of happy beers, and because I can't remember where Keith finished that night because I think he won his heat race, but I can't remember what happened in the feature. But I know he didn't win, and he came back and he goes, you better fucking win this one because somebody's winning tonight.
Yeah, we had a flat tire that night.
He had a flat tire. That's right. Because he wasn't happy when he pulled in. and he came over to me and he goes, "You better fucking win tonight." So,
I had a Keith generosity moment. It was in 2020, let's see, 22 or 23. I can't remember, but I did something foolish and I wanted to run the Quincy go-kart in the park race on the street. Is a street race, but it was in this park fast deal. Never done anything like that before. And I wanted to do it, but I didn't have an up-to-date helmet. And I got a kart suit and I got everything else except for the helmet and shoes. I didn't have any decent shoes at the time. And we all got talking, and I think Brian or somebody said, check with Keith. And hell, he didn't even think twice about it. Come get him. You know, he just lived down the road from where my grandparents lived,
right.
so it wasn't too far at the time. But it was a maroon helmet and I think red shoes, if I remember right. But I can't remember if those were his shoes or if those were somebody else. I'm not sure now, but that was his helmet for sure. And he let me borrow them and took them back, and there you are, you know. But I mean, that was just it. When it came to racing, when it came to making sure you know, your buddy gets down the road and gets what he needs, Keith, you know, if he could, he would. And that's what, he was a good dude, you know.
So,
You got
Craig,
that right.
we're gonna get with you, Craig. Craig, you tell us something.
I feel like after talking to everybody else, I haven't actually known Keith really all that long. Probably only about 5 years, actually. I mean, we've been side by side for the last 3, but the night I met him, I was an official for Peoria Speedway. And, well, Keith being Keith, he got a little mad at somebody, got into a wreck, and he decided under caution he was going to finish him. And he did. And I disqualified Keith. And after the races, I went over to talk to him. I always felt like when I was an official to go talk to everybody after the races, especially if I disqualified you. So I started walking towards him. You know, there where his truck's at, the trailer. He can see all the way down that road. He saw me with my official shirt on, and I seen him dip back in the trailer. When he came back out, he had 2 bush lights. He walked right up to me, and he goes, "Don't worry, man. I knew it was fucking coming. I absolutely knew it was coming." And then we ended up literally that night, sitting there talking to each other probably 2 or 3 hours. And then I decided that was going to be my last year being an official. I had been yelled at enough that I was done with that. Jeff knows how that goes. And he called me and wanted to know if I was going to go to Cole Swibel's race car party at Cruisins on Farmington Road. It was the first one we got at Cruisins. When you did the live show there.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys did the live show there. And I went down there, meet him, and just kind of hang out with everybody, and ended up, me and Keith stood in the corner like 2 16-year-old girls talking all night long. I don't think we ever heard it up the corner. And that's when we just decided, I said, I really like, you know, I'd like to go racing with you. And he was more than grateful, and we had a great time. I mean, it's been 3 of my favorite seasons of racing ever.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I just qualified.
Easily.
Yeah, that's how I met him. I just qualified.
That's awesome.
Were you a little nervous walking up to him? Were you a little nervous at the time?
I didn't really know Keith Siegel. Then I started walking towards him, and he just kept getting bigger and bigger the closer I got. When he dipped in the trailer and walked out with 2 beers in his hand, and he had that look at me like, here.
Well, that's like that night. That's
Keith. I mean,
Yeah.
he said,
That's
don't
like
worry
that
about
the
it.
Hornet
I knew
deal, you know. I just knew he was gonna be mad, you know, and by that time he was over it, you know, like accept what was coming, he was over it. So he had a fuse, and once he popped, he was fine.
Once he was out of that car, maybe 2 minutes later, he was done.
Yeah.
That mad was gone. It was bush light time, and time to talk about the following week and see what we can do to improve.
Just had to cool his hand down, you know.
That's right.
That's right.
So Brian,
Brian's been that with me. We had to have that with Brian a lot. When Brian was racing with me a lot, the number one rule was before I get out of the car, I had to have my helmet up. He's ready. And I'm going to tell you, there was nights where Keith or I needed those. Before you get out of the car, you can be mad about something stupid.
So, Brian, go ahead and give us a story. I've been holding off on you for a little bit so you could think of something.
Well, I can tell you how I met Keith, and it's a pretty good story. We was at Spoon, I believe, Memorial Day weekend. So there was a, was that Gary Cook Jr. Memorial that goes on down there? anyway, I had just started doing the Hot Lap Hero stuff. You know, Kurt had actually hooked me up and got me some equipment because I started doing the podcast, and then Kurt's like, "Well, you can get serious about it. Let's do something about racing because that's what I love." And and I had been down to Peoria a few times and done some video, and I was, you know, I told Chris Moorfield I was going to help. I just want to take some little video and make like a short little video for him. So, anyways, we're down at Spoon, and I'm filming Chris, and this is the day Chris had an evap hose on his right valve cover, was his feet or in his header. He was just smoking out the entire track, and Chris was trying to figure that out all night. Well, I was taking some video of Chris's car, and at the time I didn't know, but Keith was next to him, and I'm taking some little short video clips and whatnot, and then somebody next to me goes, "You know, if you really want to get some good video, you should check out this car." And I turned around and I'm like, "Yeah, who the hell's that?" And he's like, "Me, Keith Siegel." And I, much like Craig, I think we sat and talked for, God, it felt like 3 hours. And I like looked up at him, I'm like, "Are you racing tonight?" He's like, yeah, I don't got to do none of that. She's like, "I'm already in the show. I don't got to make the B main like Chris." So, I mean, we talked for 3 hours. And this is coming off of Keith had just fought COVID. He was really bad. He almost passed, I guess. And he had lost 60 or 70 pounds. Well, you know, he was all proud about that, showing me all the extra room in his driving suit. And, you know, he was real excited about Hot Lap Hero stuff. And, you know, he was like, well, it's just a match made in heaven because his car was orange and black and had white on it. And those were the colors that. So it just, it pretty much went from there. Like, you know, we just pretty much hit it off. And that really is, you know, he was really the spark that ignited what we really wanted to do, because we were just piddle farting around doing some shows and stuff. And we were kind of building our catalog, if you will. And Keith really came in and made it a reality, because he went and put that big old Hot Lap Hero sticker on the roof and then went out and won Summer Natties with it.
The old Screaming Siegel.
Monster.
And that you see that video's been filtering around, that been shared a bunch about, you know, yeah, you need to be checking that shit out when he was referring to Hot Lap Hero. Yeah, that's and that like with Craig too, I feel like I didn't have as long with Keith, but you know, the 4 years that we've been friends, we talked every day, and if we didn't talk every day, we all talked on our message, you know, our group message, you know, every day, multiple times anyway. So, you know, it was just he was you know, he was kind of one of my rocks, you know, and he always willing to help me out, whatever we needed. And you know, he was also a big motivator, because there were times that I thought about just giving it up, and no, you can't give it up, Hayward. If you give it up, then nobody else is going to do it. And so, you know, it was just he was definitely a huge part of this all, and just a massive influence in my life in such a short time, which, you know, unfortunately is cut way too short.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally agree.
Well, we have another guest joining us from Gulf Shores.
Let's get it cracked, though. Let's get
Look at
Shores.
Look at this kid.
Wow.
He was mad because he had to go to Florida for vacation.
It must be, that's a horrible.
He wanted to stay here to practice and race, but
I did for a bit. I'm glad I came down here now. It's nice out here. It's like,
Sure, the scenery's
like
really
70
good.
Or like,
yeah, I'm sure it is.
Is it mainly old people?
Yeah.
it's really nice here.
Well, nobody likes a bragger.
I remember my first beer.
Cody said he just wanted to put out there that he's butthurt you're down there, and he's not.
Yeah, he just texted my dad. But back to the whole Keith. I've known Keith for like my whole racing career. I think the first time that we ever met was at the shop when my grandpa was building his like leaf spring car out there, and I was driving the first time I ever met Keith. I was driving the. Man, I forget how it all went down. But like, I just remember this. Like, we hung out and I just talked about racing. Man, this guy's cool. Like, I got done driving, and then like, I remember my second year in Kids Mod. I think we pitted next to him because we usually pitted next to Noah, I believe, and my dad didn't want to get his truck like hit with rocks and stuff, so we went down there and pitted next to Keith, and it just became a habit after that. And from there on out, like, it was just pitting every weekend at Peoria. We'd pit next to Keith and try to leave early, but we never really got to leave early. Dad.
Yep.
So like every single time that like I'd win, he'd be the first one to my window, mouthful of chew. Just
Yeah.
he'd be like, "Hell of a job, kid, hell of a job." And it was just one of those core memories that I'll never forget, and Peoria will never be the same now with him gone. But he's got some good stories too.
I blew up his wedding.
He did blow up his wedding.
We weren't even invited. And so we just kind of invited ourselves because, I mean, Keith would have done that, right? So, yeah. So I got the bright idea to bring fireworks. And, yeah, it didn't work out so well. So ended up almost killing Keith's grandma and blew up a tent and had to buy a Halo blanket, I think. Was that what it was?
I don't even
Yeah,
know.
it was $500 firework. It was. And the best part about it all is Keith looked at me. He goes, "You almost killed my grandma." I was like, "Sorry, dude. My bad. Sorry." And Brian, for the record, it was not his motor. It was my motor. All right. It's okay.
Yeah, it was Casey's motor.
But
Lucas Bolton Racing's motor. It was the
There you go. Yeah, that's well said. Thank you. Much
Yeah.
Lucas, I don't knows if I knew your dad a long time ago, like a long time ago. But if you think about it, I became friends even with you because of Keith.
yes, that is
you guys
true.
sitting next to us and hanging out. He was so proud of that picture of the two cars sitting nose to nose. That giant poster in the shop, man. Everybody knows that poster that goes in that shop. Huge picture. He was so proud of that.
Yeah,
it was the same on this side as well. It was that picture will forever be iconic in his world. You know what I mean? And I'm so glad it was iconic in his world as well.
yeah, I have that picture hanging up in my room. Like I got all my checks hung up, I got my trophies, and then I got that picture to set off. Like I put it like right with all my stuff. Like it's like that picture meant a lot.
Yeah, in his shop, that picture's about this big. It is a poster.
Yeah.
It's framed.
Yeah.
They had services.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that it was one of my favorite pictures. Like since he moved up to A-Mod, maybe he could get a win and I could. We can recreate that, but I still want to recreate that on the Keith Siegel Memorial night. So
That's
There
right.
you go. There you go.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Hey Jeff, I think you need a cardboard cutout of Keith for that night.
Yeah.
dude,
Get a fat head.
bad idea.
It's in the works. Whole bunch of like heads made on sticks, like Keith. You know what I mean? So it is definitely
Oh,
it has to happen.
What they do at Prairie Dirt.
Yeah. They'll do the PDC like they'll have like yeah.
Wasn't there a Moorfield fathead floating around the grandstands last year? Or the year before? Yeah.
It was the one.
There's
we
one
watched
somewhere.
Yeah.
today or what?
A cardboard cutout of Keith. It kind of seems ideal. I think we need one.
I would shake it and be like, "Son of a bitch, kid!" You know, no.
Well, Lucas, since you brought up the Keith Siegel Memorial, let's go ahead and break it.
Yeah, good timing there, Jeff.
Yep. Good. It's perfect.
Saturday, August 2nd, 6,800 to win B mods, 500 to start. 40 lap feature.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And everybody who's watching, feel free. We'll take any bit helps for the purse. $20, whatever you can do. It's for a great cause, right? Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen.
Second place will be $2,500.
Tradition in the-
I believe third place is at $1,200. Fourth is at $1,000, and then it drops $100 the rest of the way. So 900, 800, 700, 6, 5. But yeah, 6,800 to win, 500 to start B mods. Saturday, August 2nd at Peoria Speedway. It will be the Keith Siegel Memorial.
We
Yeah,
wouldn't miss
monster
it.
event.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that'd be huge. If you don't get 40 to 50 B mods, I'd be shocked.
So
Yeah.
Spoon River is not
All right,
racing that night.
everything's going to work out.
Yeah. Spoon's off that night. Peevely, Missouri has World of Outlaw sprint cars and midgets, so their modifieds that are under the same rules as ours are not racing that night. And the Brownstown Bull Ring is off that weekend. So none of those guys all the tracks that run the same rules as us, none of them are racing that weekend.
Hey, and
Yep.
is Highland racing that weekend?
Highland is, but they're under the pro mods.
Yep.
Okay.
They show up.
Yeah, the pro mods can still show up. I mean,
Yeah, they can
Hey,
still.
we should push for the B Main boys to bring his car up there because
There
he
you go.
did love the B Main boys page, and
Oh
it'd be
yeah,
cool.
that'd be
Have
perfect.
to bring him up here. I know he runs down there at Highland.
Noah said 68 laps. Did we all not watch the 60 lapper they did over for 100,000 a win in Kansas?
It didn't work out.
Is Noah driving 68 laps too?
Yeah, Noah's as good as they come, but yeah, let's not do that.
Count the pace laps.
Yes, Brian. Peoria rules. It's not going to be that. What's that new the third motor option? We're
No.
not doing that third motor option.
No third motor option.
Just Peoria Speedway rules.
I think it
That's
should be 40 and or 68
360s.
cautions, whichever comes first.
360s and 660s.
Oh god.
40 laps or 68 cautions, whichever comes
Keith,
first.
Noah's dead set on 68.
Well, 4 laps, sweet.
This is going to be a huge
We should-
night.
and
I'm gonna have Keith Siegel memorial hats. Those will be pre-orders. Jenna's seen the logo and she's thrilled about it.
They are good looking.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So, but we'll decide on the support classes at a later date, and we'll get those out there because I have a feeling like that guy said, Kurt said, everybody we should have a good count of B mods that night. So
Absolutely.
And I vote that we leave turn one alone so it can have that big hole in it because Keith loved using that hole to turn.
He didn't care how rough it was. He did not care how rough it was. He gonna drive it.
I remember that. I forget what he was saying.
We could do it. Be okay.
One of those Joker laps.
Because every single time he'd come after a race, he'd be like, "See how big that hole is?" He's like, "It's bigger because I've been digging my frame up through it all night long."
He wasn't lying.
Plant and turn, baby.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So my thing with Keith is, and I know he's sitting there drinking a beer with Cody every Saturday night. Tell Cody he burned 4 tires up. You're standing right there with Cody. Why aren't you telling him? You're drinking a beer with him, but you're texting me to tell him the next day that Keith's mad. We burned up 4 tires. Keith mad. So it's
Every
Cole.
week.
You're going to have to text that now, I guess.
I do.
Well, I called Cody up last Tuesday, I believe it was, and he answers the phone. And he says, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "Well, I just wanted to call and tell you how fucking shitty the track was for practice last week. It's dusty and shit." And he just starts laughing. I'm like, "I didn't want you to think that Keith wasn't with us." You know, he thought that was pretty funny, and then he brought up the podcast where we multiple times gave out his number on our podcast to the complaint department for Pure Speedway. So,
yeah, during the episode after the one of the carnivals we did, and
he's like, "Just voice your complaints to this number," and it was, I think it was Cody's number or the track's phone number.
Keith gave Cody's personal number out.
I think he's got it. Has he got a number since then?
I'm I would hope so.
We probably had to.
All 8 people that watch the show are probably like, "Hey."
Oh man. It was the later viewers in the week. They're like, I know that son of a bitch. I'm gonna call him.
Well, I think now that we've told some stories, we've got the announcement out about the race. Are you guys ready for the video?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let her fly.
We'll go ahead and we'll get the video going here.
Watch the video.
Absolutely.
Are we all gonna cheers?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well,
Lucas,
we
get
should
your
have
orange juice.
There you go. You got it right.
What'd you tell Lucas to get his orange juice?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he
It's your virgin colada.
Virgin mimosa.
He's more of a Shirley Temple guy.
Yeah, she's pretty.
That was-
There it is. All right, we're gonna start the memorial video or the tribute video now.
Yeah, Jeff made this little video up for Keith, so check it out.
Here at the Peoria Speedway, putting the 21 piece of Michael Mennel and the M68 XE Siegel. Sunday morning, I was 7 years old in the backyard playing in a big mud hole. I was all decked out, ready for church, and my brand new suit all covered in dirt. Mama hit the ceiling, she was fit to be tied, talking about how she's gonna tan my hide. But Daddy wasn't laughing when I changed my clothes, said, Mama, leave the boys alone. Well, it's a good die young. It's a good die young. Our little boy's gonna have a lot of fun, cause he's gonna live forever with a good die young. 10 years later, had a hot rod board. Constable clocked me at 104. Judge said, boy, you're gonna hurt yourself. You long been dead if you was anybody else, but it's a good die young. It's a good die young. Oh, there ain't a sin that's gonna hold you, son, cause you're gonna live forever with a good die young. Well, I got a good heart, I wouldn't hurt a soul, but I'm gonna keep her rocking till they call that low. Old St. Peter's gonna have to wait. I'm gonna go to heaven, but I might be late, and it's a good die young. Lord, it's a good die young. Pedal to the metal, let your motor run, cause I'm gonna live forever. It's a good die young, it's a good die young. Lord, it's a good die young. Pick out the jazz, we'll have some fun, cause I'm gonna live forever with the good die young. Said I'm gonna live forever with the good die young. Head on to turn number 4, the checker flag falls, 14 Siegel. Can't believe that you got me in a suit and tie. I had to take a pull so I wouldn't cry. You got a line out the church door saying goodbye. Yeah, I believe in when to say you're in a better place. You had a wild side, but you had amazing grace. I know you're way off up in them clouds, but if you could still hear me right now, I hope you hit those gold streets on 2 wheels. I hope your mansion in the sky's got a 10-acre field with some to climb out of the race car on the top of his roof. It says Hot Lap Heroes. But tonight it was the feature hero of the night getting set to climb out of the car. Your feature winner, Keith Siegel. And he's fired up. We'll send it down to Georgia Hannaberry.
Thank you, Ruben. Keith Siegel fired up tonight. Let's get a word with the man. I could tell from the beginning of that race there was something about you that said you just weren't going to give that up.
Oh, I can't give that up. This is the third win this year. Damn, it still feels good. Feels just as good as the third one as it did with the first one.
It seems like you waited just a little bit there to make that pass for the lead. When did you decide, okay, it's time to go?
When I knew I wasn't going to wreck it. A little slide at the bottom. So the first few laps, I really felt like I was going to have to wreck him to get around it. So as soon as I knew I had him clear without wrecking him, go.
Anyone that you want to thank?
TNN Auto Body, Court Corner, Beyonce, my new crew chief, my Wagner Farms Pharmacy Services, Hot Lap Heroes. Everybody should be checking that shit out. So,
ladies and gentlemen, let's give him the energy that he's giving us. Keith Siegel.
when I do, I hope you got some new stories to tell. Till then, give heaven some hell. I was there when you raised your hand. It's about singing just as I am. Walking that out, praying that prayer. Man, it ain't right, but if you gotta be there, I hope you hit those gold streets on 2 wheels. Hope your mansion in the sky's got a 10 10-acre field with some mud and some hubs you can lock in. Make them thunder, make them wonder how you got it. How'd you veer, how'd you clear from a man upstairs? Crank it loud, hold it down till I get there. And when I do, I hope you got some new stories to tell. Till then, give it some hell. I will get out when you raise your hand. I'm singing just as I am. Man, it ain't right, man, it ain't fair. I'll see you again, but till then, give it some hell.
That was good.
Hell
Jeff.
yeah.
Did a damn good job.
That sucked.
I like it.
Real good.
Yeah, excellent video.
We'll get that video put up on YouTube so people can go back and watch it whenever they want to.
Oh yeah.
It'll be under the Hall Racing Media YouTube channel. Same with this video for live show tonight. It's always on there. Keegan.
Can I give a shout
Yeah.
out real quick? Shout out Jenna.
Yes.
Shout out Jenna. She, the other day was hard for all of us, right? It was extremely hard. Jenna was a rock star, man. Keith was larger than life. Jenna's the same way. Shout out Jenna. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Chris, we understand. He had the bull. He had the bull tonight. So I tell you,
You better shoot a 268 tonight.
yeah. Chris is just seeing everything with him and how Thursday. I mean, me and him sitting at the track entrance talking a little bit Thursday. He needed that time inside that race car. It seemed like.
Yep.
And,
I went up to him afterwards and I said, "You want to get out of this race car?" He said, "No, I don't want to get out of this car." I said, "I know. Take your time. Don't get out of it. You don't want to get out of it." I said, "You need help getting out of this." I said, "You probably can't feel your legs. We'll pull you out of this."
Yeah.
So he needed his time, and he got it, and it was great seeing him go around there with him. I was kind of wanting to see. I wish someone could have got a grin of the driver of the hearse. If you could have imagined what Keith's face would have looked like driving a hearse around the track, it's exactly what that driver's face.
Yeah.
I would
was
like to have seen what he did when he
that
came
guy
over
was
the crest.
dude.
They
Oh,
called
man.
me on. They called me Wednesday because they had never done this before, and Jenna had just kind of put me in the wheelhouse for getting everything at the track. I guess I was kind of like the median. Yeah, the median. So they called, and then they were asking some questions. Debbie was great. She said, "Well, how fast can we go?" And I just made the comment. I said, "Well, my 4 Explorer was going 80 mile an hour at the flag stand." I was like, "And that's top heavy." I said, "So it'll hold that." And she laughed, and she's like, "Well, I won't be going that fast." But she's like, "We're real excited. My driver's just really excited about this." I'm like, and I said, "I know Keith would be real excited about him being excited." So I said, "It's going to be a good time." And they were just super curious, and so it was really cool that they got to do that, and they had given up some checkered flags to stick out the window on the last lap, and so I we're cutting a pretty good pace there, and I actually haven't looked, but I did take some video of the hearse carrying Keith and of the truck on the trailer, but I'm going to go back and see if I can look at see the guy's face when he was driving the hearse, because
I was standing in turn 2 right at the entry or the exit, and you could see him going to one to come around, and you're like, I mean, that dude was cheesing. I mean, he was loving every
moving
minute
right
of it.
along too.
I would say he's doing everybody.
He was moving along.
He wasn't going 35 because I think he was cutting some pretty quick lap times, but it's only because Keith was in the back. Hammer down.
Well, we asked
Your weight, man, he was good.
Cody asked Chris if he was going to give the hearse the bumper, and Chris said, "I don't have a bumper, but I'll put tire marks all the way down the side of it. And then I'll fix it at the body shop for him afterwards."
Well, Jeff,
That'd been
I'm glad
awesome.
it wasn't.
That'd been awesome.
I'm glad it wasn't muddy for them, and they could
Yeah.
get in and get out without a problem, and didn't mess their car all up, so it didn't cause any grief for later on for them. But they did a great job with it for not really. I mean, there's no plan for something like that. You just do it. But I thought they did a great job by even accepting it or saying. And the whole thing, really, too. When we rolled in there on the day of the funeral, we pulled up and there's a slew of people standing outside just drinking beer. Looked like a tailgate party. And no, this is a funeral, and was really glad to see them just let things happen. They didn't care. They just let people relax and do their thing with the service, and it was kind of neat, really. I mean, it's not very often you see that, especially in Elmwood, but it was cool to see what they
That was
allowed
one
to
of
have
the coolest celebrations of the life ever.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it was that whole moment, and we couldn't tell. At one point, the Elmwood cop came by and he was talking to a few people, and then he came kind of circled back around, and then he hauled the mail by us, and we don't know if he was chasing somebody or if he was just doing it to give us a little Keith moment. But he ripped it. He was ripping it down the road pretty good.
So he was down there at the bottom of the hill with the procession. He was the cop that was down there guarding traffic. So he might have been going to get in place when we saw him. So
it was that was probably one of the coolest, saddest, funnest moments. Like I said, Keith's kind of been a pretty damn good coach for me, a friend. Losing dad and stuff, he's kind of been and just on anything, have a good time with and shit. And at the racetrack, when you look stumped, he'd come over. What's wrong? What do you need? Like, I don't know what to do, and dumb stuff like that. And we're learning. We got this new car and stuff, and it's not the same. We've said it a million times, but like what I will say is that try to carry on everything you can and try to celebrate one hell of a guy, one hell of a wheelman, and the pit area is not going to be the same all the way around. Not just that pit stall, not just that area. The leaving, whether it was early or late, and getting called a big leaving early or hanging out, running out of beer, needing more. It's one of the things where Keith was a Peoria Speedway legend, and will always go down as that. And I'm glad we get to do this for him, and what we did last week was beautiful. And I don't know, you wish you never have to do it. That's no shit, but it was a pretty cool moment. I will say, like I said, it was the coolest, saddest, awesomest in a long time, and I think we did him pretty good that week. I think did a good thing.
Well, not everybody gets that. Not everybody gets that privilege to be carted around the racetrack. Like he was.
Yeah.
I think this is the third time that's happened. And the
Right.
first one, I believe, was Herb Shannon Sr., Gary Cook Jr., and then Keith. So, he was in pretty good company there. That tribute being allowed to happen. And I don't know, Jeff, did Sherry do that? Did she have that ever done back in the day, or
no? So when Brickman passed away, they did a drive by the racetrack. They never actually got on the track. They just drove by the track. Same, I believe, with Chuck. But no, as far as I know of people getting onto the track, I think Herb Sr. was the first one that they did that for. And then Gary Cook Jr. And I think you had.
Yeah, I had both of them, I believe. Yeah. Well, I know the Gary Cook Jr. one was during the rebuild in 2013, if I remember right, because we did
it during an evening.
It was the evening, but the pit lights didn't work. The pit lights, the electricity was cut off to the pits because it was still under repair from the flood.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of, there was some cars. I think Brian Crebo kind of headed that deal up, had some cars backed up to the fence. You couldn't really see them, but you could hear them. And that almost made it better.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a spooky night. That was just I shouldn't say spooky night, but it really got to you because it was dark. The lighting wasn't great. You know, things were. It was good, really. I mean, it give you the feels.
Yeah. Well, I think
Before we cut off here, let me ask you this. Does anybody know? So, like, we watched all of Keith's Hornet card and go black and orange. Does anybody know that answer? I've always wondered.
I do not.
I always wondered that way because, like, once he
But
stuck with it, man, it was in.
Well, it looked good.
He,
though, didn't it?
he did have the couple years because he started off the black mod, but then he ran at least 1 year with a white mod.
Yep, I remember that.
Because he brought me that door, and he, so quoted. He said, "You take that mother effer out of my garage. I hate that car. I don't like white cars." I had no idea why I did that, but I know I don't know where the black and orange came from, but
Was the white one after the? So he had two bad wrecks at Knoxville, if I remember right. I think the white car came after his first bad wreck at Knoxville, and then the second one was when he flipped running second to Schramm.
Yeah.
Going into turn one there, but I think
Yeah,
he
we
had
was
another wreck.
All right.
Yeah, that was Summer Nationals night. That was the night me and you were sitting in the grandstand together. And,
yeah, that was after he won Peoria.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Me and Adam, and I can't remember who else was down there with him that night.
So the white one came from Chris. Yeah, Ashley, you're correct on that. So Keith had the love-hate with Knoxville. The love was he got to see all his family race there, so he wanted to race Knoxville.
The white was free sheet metal from Carmody.
Yeah. And he loved the speed at Knoxville. He won that Summer Nationals night. He won the heat race.
Yeah.
And then
Banked
he won by what?
I was coming down the access road when he was taking the white flag of that race. I seen him go by me on the access road that night. And I got there, and of course, I didn't really know it at the time, but I seen him go by as I was by McDonald's.
He damn near had a
Yeah,
straightaway.
he had
on
a straightaway. Oh, yeah.
He was gone. And then, I don't know, they did a redraw.
Have a screaming Siegel moment in victory lane.
Yeah, then they did a redraw or something, and Schramm started out ahead of him. And he was running Schramm down going into turn one there, and then just hooked that cushion, and it just sent that car.
He's the only one besides, because we made the joke, Ashton Winger ran the top, which we haven't seen anybody do that since 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then Keith went up there and just ripping the lip, just burying it in there and just digging. And I was like, man, I hope he don't flip this thing.
Well, that's the problem. Those corners are so long. Those corners are so long that if it isn't perfect through there, at some point something's bad's gonna happen.
Oh man.
But he did. He loved Knoxville, and then he, of course, hated it whenever there was a wreck. So, because he would tell us stories about he remembered either his dad or his uncle John or John, his cousin John, going out to Knoxville and riding with them out there and to go watch them race, and he loved going out there. But,
oh yeah.
Yeah,
he had to do it too.
So
that was a unique place.
Said
Too bad it never mounted to anything, but it was a unique track.
Okay, so Chris gave him gave him a car to use until he fixed the one from the first Knoxville crash. So that's where the white
car came.
Nice.
I can't remember, but I feel like Keith told me something about the black and the orange, and I don't necessarily remember, but I just know that I think he said he had a bunch of orange vinyl laying around.
That was Noah, wasn't it? Noah did his.
It might have been
Noah was doing his lettering for him
because Keith got a vinyl printer, and he started printing his own stuff. But I can't remember if he said that the black was cheaper, or I don't know if black sheet metal was cheaper than other colors.
Yeah.
But Brian, you were saying we were talking about his number, like the day I couldn't process why M68 didn't make sense to me, and you said why. So explain why he was M68.
M was for his mom.
His mom.
I don't remember the 68.
68 years mom was born.
Okay, 68 years mom was born.
68 was the year his
Yeah.
mom was born.
So it's basically just a tribute to his mom.
That's
Well,
cool.
got
So
the
she
number.
was born in '68. He was born in '86. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Noah
Absolutely.
said his cutter never worked.
Yeah.
Keith's cutter never worked.
Yeah. He tried giving me that cutter a year or so ago. He's like, "Hey, you need a vinyl cutter?" I'm like, "Nope. I got all kinds of vinyl." Nope.
We were
You
just
sure?
we were just trying to get more space in the garage.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
He said, "Well, you got that straight." I was gonna probably get that wrapped. I don't know if I need a vinyl plotter and cutter or whatever. He's like, "Damn it, I just can't get rid of this thing."
I know there's a few people on the message that know that have been in Keith's shop. It's a little cramped and a little full.
Yeah.
There's always a lot in there. We could clean it out, and it seemed like the next time I went back, it was full again.
I do want to say some things about Keith that maybe not everybody knows, and obviously losing him is it still doesn't seem real, and I'm just kind of waiting on that phone call from him to say, hey Beach Nut, what's going on? I talked to you in a couple of weeks, and kind of check in. But the last time that Keith and I hung out was actually with Craig, and we were going to one of the many times Keith would always drop whatever he's doing to help me. We were going to pick up my truck.
Yeah.
And
We had fun that day.
yeah, and a lot of people don't know this about Keith, but if it wasn't for Keith, a lot of times Peoria Speedway, would have track equipment and issues, and Keith was the guy to fix all the issues. And matter of fact, the day we went to go pick my truck up, we had to make like 4 stops before we even got my truck because we had to go get a trailer. Then we had to come down to Peoria Speedway and try to figure out why the tow truck wasn't starting. And so Keith was just so selfless. And a lot of times you probably wouldn't know that if you met him by watching him race or having a Keith Mad moment, but just a selfless guy, and just like his brother, just like his cousin Chris, those guys would do anything for anybody. And I had just appreciated everything Keith ever did for me, but I also appreciated what he did for that racetrack at Peoria. He never asked for anything, and I know people would say, "Oh, he's a track favorite," but when you put your time and effort into stuff to make something happen to where you can go out and do what you love, I think that's selfless. And I just think that that's a great quality we need to remember Keith by. Was anytime somebody needed something, he would normally, be there if he could. And I'm sure Chris has got stories about, the same exact stuff where, Keith got a call and said, "Hey, I got a motor blown up or my truck's broke down on the side of the road. Okay. Hey, I'll be on my way." And, I can't count on both my hands how many times Keith fixed my red truck, broke down a million times. And, he didn't have to do that. And, part of me sad that I don't get to have that with him anymore, where it feels like we came together between men and machines and mechanics. And, it was something I never really applied myself in, and I should have, but Keith always made me more confident in doing stuff on my own. And, I just appreciated the knowledge and his, the volumes of knowledge he had, and, all the tools we needed. That's one of the big things is like never having the right tools. And Keith always had the right tool or a way to make something work if you didn't have the tools. And we really are running out of those people on this earth. And, Gary Cole's dad was one of those guys. And, not to have Gary was a big loss, and also now to not have Keith is a big loss, not to only to us, but to to other people and even the racetrack. And it's a shame Brandon Dean was in Florida and wasn't able to make it back, but I know Brandon Dean's probably hurting. And it was a huge loss to the racing community locally, and I haven't get to process the grief as like I wanted to, but it just doesn't seem right, doesn't seem fair, and it's just sad that a wealth of his wealth of knowledge is no longer available to all of us. And
He definitely had one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen in my entire life.
he did.
I was on the phone with him probably about 2 years ago. I just got a new driveway, and they made it a lot bigger than what I had. But man, they tore up my landscaping. I was like, I'm gonna tear out all this old landscaping, and I'm gonna get new stuff. And I just don't know what to do with it. I'm on the phone with him talking about my plan. I'm gonna tear all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't really want to pay anybody to do it or anything like that. But I'm gonna tear it out. I'll get it all tore out, no problem. And then some of it was already piled up. He goes, "You already got it piled up?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "All right." Hung up the phone. Says, "I'll see you in 30 minutes." Next thing I know, He's at my house with a dump trailer backing up my driveway. He said, I'll leave it here as long as you need it. You let me know. Take your time getting rid of everything you need. And I had everything done but one bush. He's like, don't worry, I got that. Showed up with a log chain and a truck, backed up my front yard. And I was like, there's no way. And he goes, just give me a second. Literally 60 seconds later, that bush was laying in the back of that dump trailer. He ripped it right on out. He took care of all of it. I never asked him to do any of it. He knew he didn't want me to ask him to do it. He just did it. You didn't have to ask him to do anything. He'd do it for you.
Well, what was it, that night he stayed at Peoria pretty late, and the next morning he had to get up and make Jenna a garden.
Oh yeah,
He's in his race suit doing the garden.
Yeah. That was another like weekend of racing where we raced at Peoria, then we were going to Spoon on a Sunday or something. So it was probably Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend, one of them. And yeah, I fell asleep in my car waiting on Keith because he's like, yeah, we're going to leave. And I'm like, okay, cool. My truck's running. I'm in there waiting. And it was probably 3.5 hours later. They woke me up after they took a bunch of pictures of me, fell passed out in my truck. And Keith's like, get in the truck, man. The air's on. We got to get back to Elmwood. He's like, I got to till the garden. And I'm laughing. And I'm like, till the garden? He's like, yeah, I told Jen I'd till the garden. I got to get it done. So he did. He went home, jumped out of his truck. I went into the cat room or whatever, laid in a bed full of cat hair, and he went out there in the back of his racing suit and tilled up a garden at 9 in the morning.
In the racing suit.
In the racing
That's
suit.
fantastic.
And then I think we went.
Well, that was either super early or super late Keith time. We're not sure which one. So.
Keegan Thurman was on here, and he had talked about something, but Keegan was mentioned a story about how Keith was. He said Keith come home. Well, he would know when Keith came home from the racetrack when he lived in Brimfield. He's like, because he'd roll in 3, 4 in the morning, maybe even later. He said he'd have that dually with that open trailer and that race car on it. He said and he would just go in the backyard and whip shitties and with the trailer and the car still loaded. I mean, just a unique individual for sure. And we're all going to miss him. And
the dude loved life, man. Keith loved life. Like he lived every damn moment. I mean, he loved his daughter. He loved Jenna. He loved racing. He loved all of us. Loved you guys. That dude lived every minute to the ground, no matter what. And then sucks. He's one that song you played, and it's one of his favorite songs from the interview we did. And you want to talk about a perfect song for a guy.
He was a Peoria Speedway fan. He was a Peoria Speedway enthusiast, and he was a Peoria Speedway racer, and he was a figurehead there to the youth growing up, that probably watched him race for a decade. And and he won't be there no more, so that'll be tough for people to see. But good dude. Good dude. And unfortunately my battery's probably about to shut me off. So if I go away, that's what happened.
Lucas, you've been sitting there all quiet. Do you got anything to say before we end up here?
I don't know. I remember one last story about Keith. I remember in the spot, I used to drag my brakes really, really hard. And one night I pulled off the track and they were glowing really bad. And I'll never forget. He walked up to me.
It was like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
When he walked up to you.
Yeah. It was like I bet you can still go over that brake rotor and light a cigarette off of it. It's just something I'll never forget. It was it was like 4 in the morning, and he's like, "I bet you that brake rotor's still high. If I can go light a cigarette off of it still."
Casey, do you got one more?
Yeah, Keith told me, he's like, Casey, I used to watch you race Hornets when I was a kid, and I just looked at him and said, fuck you, Keith. Fuck.
Yeah, with your frosted blonde tips.
Easy. My Zach Moore impression.
I've known Casey a long time, too.
Yeah.
Vanilla Ice was topping the charts then, wasn't it?
Yeah, that or MC Hammer was one of the two. Yeah.
Marky Mark.
That was back when the Hornet drivers would just wear jeans and a driver's top, and that's all Casey had.
You guys had to tell me to quit wearing a short sleeve shirt. You're like, dude, no more short sleeve shirts. No more. Sorry.
Yeah, so.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, this was good. We needed it.
Great announcement for the race.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thursday hit me. I finally broke Thursday and Friday. And I don't know if I could have done it without you guys being there with me. I mean, you guys basically stopped me coming off that racetrack.
It was us three.
Yep.
It was us three walking up that track. Well, we were walking down. I think he was walking up.
Yeah.
It was a powerful
Yeah,
moment.
thanks, everybody. We couldn't get through this without each other. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
The
Absolutely.
whole community really.
If anybody wants a prime example of what a racing family is, this is it.
Yeah.
You got
This
one
is
right
what the
there.
racing- this
I
is
know.
it.
Damn right.
I know my girlfriend Jessica never really understood why I was just so infatuated with the racing and the racing community, and through everything she was there with me, and she knew how much I love Keith and cared about him and how much we talked. As a matter of fact, she used to give me a hard time about how much we would talk on the phone. She's like, it was almost like you guys had a bromance. She said you guys would you'd talk for hours, and she said, she felt really bad because all the time she gave me a hard time, but for talking to Keith so much. But when she went to the service and to the burial, and then to the after the lunch there, she finally said on the way home, she's like, I finally see what you're talking about, how your racing family is family. And I said, yeah, it really is. And I've been saying that for a long time. Like, if you're in the racing world, then I consider you my family. And Keith was my brother, and I never had a brother, and Keith was one of my brothers, and I'll never forget him, and I'll always remember all the good times and the funny stories, and just all the selfless things that he did without ever asking for anything in return either. And I think that's something else that we should think about too.
He didn't care. He didn't want nothing in return. Give him a cold beer.
Yeah, if you had a story. Everybody, right? If you knew Keith, you had a story with Keith.
It's so
That
funny
ain't no
you mentioned
shit.
along.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you guys. I know Lucas, Keith touched you, and you guys were super close. And I know there was a time he was your favorite race car driver, and even when you weren't his favorite race car driver or whatever, he loved you, man, and he was always proud of you. And I know he was excited for this year for you too.
Last year when I was last night at Peoria, I think I was burning them down. I'm not 100. Like I just kept on seeing that M68 get closer and closer. I'm like, no way, this is not happening right now. There's no way. And then that caution came out with I think like 4 to go, and I ended up falling back a couple spots. But still, like running with Keith was probably one of the best things ever. I was like, there's no way I'm running with Keith right now. Like this, I've looked up to this guy my entire racing career, and I'm running with him now. Like it was just a great feeling.
And he would love this shirt.
Yeah,
Man. He would.
sure.
This flower.
He would.
All right, guys. Well,
Adrian's
thanks for
splitting a
coming
good one.
on and telling stories, and man, hopefully we can get to races. You guys, when do you guys come home?
This Saturday, we'll miss this weekend. We'll probably second race, but
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there.
Well, hopefully we get to races.
It's almost looking like I think everybody's going to miss this weekend, but
Yeah.
we'll see what Mother Nature. It's April.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
the forecast keeps changing. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. But if we do race, pit gates open at 2:00. The draw closes at 5. So you got 3 hours to come in, get your paperwork done, get your car through tech. Grandstands open at 4:30. Drivers meeting at 5:15. Hot laps for late models will hit at 5:30. $35 pit passes. Kids 10 and under are $15. Grandstands are $12. Kids 10 and under are free. So that's this Saturday. Then again, if you missed it, Keith Siegel Memorial Race will be Saturday, August 2nd. $1,600 to win and $500 to start for B mods. The B mods are Peoria rules.
40 laps.
Yep, 40 laps. Yes.
40 laps or 68 cautions, whichever comes first.
Noah Paul is first, and we need to do 68, so we'll see what happens there. But
if he's paying the fuel bill for everybody's 28 extra laps.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, though. I'm just kidding. I think we should send it off.
You get to send it off.
But I think we should just send it off, not the way we sent him off, which would be the way we ended our shows. But I think if everybody's got a drink, I know Jeff doesn't drink, but I think we should probably crack one and get a good old woohoo like a Keith victory lane celebration. A good old screaming Siegel. So we'll just give it on a 3 count. Y'all can do your thing, but I'm going to crack one for Keith. Nice cold crack. And until next time, we'll keep it on the high side, banging the cush. It's Hot Lap Heroes. We're out, and we'll go.
Well done.
All right, we'll see you guys.